continuation to our previous lecture that we discussed that in brief about how systematic literature reviews are conducted. Now we are going to discuss about each and every step in much detail. So the first step is development of a research question. The systematic reviews need to specify a research question and the methods that will be used to investigate the question, and this is often written as a protocol prior to undertaking the review. So writing a protocol is the first step and the most important and mandatory steps, which needs much of the time, because that is the one thing that is once written will guide you through the whole process of conducting the systematic reviews. It will guide you through the process of conducting the searches, what search databases you have thought of to include into your systematic review, then what is the inclusion criteria, what is the exclusion criteria, and what are the outcomes you are going to study. So the protocol is the step that will help you at each and every step of conducting the systematic review, and this is one of the most important steps that need most of the time and your mental contribution into it, intellectual contribution into it, so that you can decide pre-hand each and everything and don't face any particular issue while conducting your rest of the steps. So writing a protocol or plan of the methods at the beginning of a review can be very useful activity, and it helps the review team to gain a shared understanding of the scope of the review and methods that they will use to answer the review's question. See, you have to understand that systematic literature review is one thing that is conducted and reported by an expert panel with proper training. So if more than one people is involved in any step, then obviously you all need to be on a same page. To be on a same page, you must share something which is written for that particular task. So protocol gives you that shared understanding of the scope of the review, what steps that needs to be undertaken and how it will be undertaken. So what and how are very important in conducting any systematic literature review, because if there is gap in an understanding of any two of the people on the team who are conducting a systematic literature review would be an issue. So that is very critical and crucial to understand. So different types of systematic reviews will have more or less developed protocols. So that all depends that what kind of systematic literature review you are targeting to undertake. The review questions give each review its particular structure, drives the key decisions about what type of studies to include, where to look for them, how to assess their quality and how to combine their findings. See, I am reiterating the fact that writing a protocol is very crucial, because it will drive each and every decision in the coming steps of conducting the literature review, the systematic literature review in a very systematic manner, because it will tell you what types of study you are going to include, where you are going to search them or find them, how to assess their quality is also being written in the protocol, and how to combine all the findings that you have finally collated. Then comes the selection criteria. Once you have written the protocol objective, in that you will now do the second step, where after writing your objective you will define what is the selection criteria, on what basis you are going to make decisions about which studies you are going to include in your literature review, systematic literature review, or what studies you are going to exclude and on what basis. So reviewers has to make decisions on them, and there are multiple people who are involved at this stage. In order to do this systematically and transparently, they developed rules about which studies can be selected into the review. So in nutshell, there are some written rules which will help you in selection of the studies. So selection criteria, sometimes referred to as inclusion or exclusion criteria, create restrictions on the review. See, if we look into the scientific literature, there has been so much work that is being done and so much work is being published on day-to-day basis. When you do a systematic literature review, it's not possible to include 10,000 or 20,000 studies and analyze them and come to a conclusion. So that is not actually feasible. So to conduct a systematic literature review or to get to a particular conclusion on a particular research question, you have to filter down those studies that are very relevant for your research topic. So to apply that funnel, you have to create some restrictions on the review. That, for example, if you are looking for same, that's what I said, drug A versus drug B in rheumatoid arthritis, and the drug A has been in market for a very long time, around 20-30 years. So there are chances that the literature is very vast for that particular drug. So you do a restriction of year, that I want to include only the data that has been published in the last 10 years, or the studies may be published in different languages. So you apply a restriction criteria that I want to include only the English studies published in English only, or you want to study probably only one age population. You want to study only about the effect of that particular drug in adults. So you would apply a restriction that the studies that has been conducted on pediatric patients, you will exclude them. So there are multiple types of restrictions that you can apply to funnel down, to filter down your inclusion of the studies, because vast literature can also not be studied. Moreover, the vast literature will give you the vague answers. So you have to be very selective in selecting the studies, so that you can get a very narrowed down conclusion of your research question, very pertinent answer to your research question. So that is also very important step. So all reviews, whether systematic or not, limit in some way the studies that are considered by the review, right? In narrative literature review also you apply some restrictions. In Google, if hundreds of pages you type rheumatoid arthritis drug A, then you will probably get hundred of pages on Google. So you are not going to search and find each and every study. Again, there also you are going to apply some kind of restrictions so that you can limit the scope of your review. The same way in a systematic literature review, you are putting some restrictions, but that again, in systematic literature review, it is being guided by some guidelines through some written inclusion and exclusion criteria, right? So systematic reviews simply make these restrictions transparent and therefore consistent across studies. These selection criteria are shaped by the review question and conceptual framework that you have developed in your protocol. Again, reiterating the same fact that it is the restriction, it is the process which is being undertaken in a very transparent and written manner. It's everything is in black and white, and it's not the choice of an author or the reviewer who is including or excluding the study. It's not like that. It's very specific. So next step is developing the search strategy. Now you have decided that what kind of study you are going to include or what kind of studies you are going to exclude. Now based on that, we need to develop a search strategy. So search strategy is a process where you are defining that what kind of studies should be picked up from the different bibliographic databases, so that you don't need to filter down, or you don't have to screen lot many unnecessary studies, right? Because if we just type drug A rheumatoid arthritis, then there would be like lakhs of studies that will come up that are and most of them would be not relevant to your research question, not even linked to your research question. So why to screen all of those unnecessary studies? So search strategy is defined or developed to do a more focused research among different bibliographic databases. So the search strategy is the plan for how relevant research studies will be identified. The review questions and conceptual framework again shape the selection criteria. That's what I said. Review question will help in developing the protocol, and the protocol will shape the rest of the steps that are being conducted while doing the systematic literature review till the end. Then we are developing the search strategy. The selection criteria, specifically the studies to be included in a review, and thus are the key driver of the search strategy. So what we have decided to include and what we have decided to exclude among the available literature will guide us or will help us in developing the search strategy. A key consideration will be whether the search aims to be exhaustive, that is, aims to try and identify all the primary research that has addressed the research question, right? It should have all the important factors that we are going to answer. For example, in this question, if we are going to study the difference between drug A and drug B in rheumatoid arthritis, so at least the search strategy should have drug A's name, drug B's name, and rheumatoid arthritis along with all the synonyms. And if we have put a restriction on our inclusion criteria that all the studies should be randomized controlled trials, then randomized controlled trial will also be part of the search strategy. So now we have reached to 4 important words, that is name of drug A, name of drug B, randomized controlled trial, and rheumatoid arthritis. So we have the study design, we have the population with the disease, we have the 2 interventions that we are going to study. So the search strategy will detail the sources to be searched. That's what we discussed, that the search strategy should have the list of the databases, the bibliographic databases we are going to study. For example, we are going to study only the PubMed, we are going to study PubMed plus Medline, we are going to study Abesco, we are going to study CEC-UGC, we are going to study Embase, we are going to include Cochrane. So there are different bibliographic databases that are available to do a literature search depending upon the topic you are going to be searching. For example, CEC-UGC, if any mental disorder is being studied, then CEC-UGC would be a good source where all the studies which are dealing with any mental disorder would be indexed. So that all depends what is your research question again. An exhaustive search strategy would usually include all the sources using multiple bibliographic databases. Bibliographic databases usually index academic journals and thus are an important potential source of searching. So this is an example that I have shown for Alzheimer's disease. If we are studying anything related to Alzheimer, we have put up, then the bibliographic databases usually index records according to their topic using keywords or control terms, like so Alzheimer with different spellings, with the post office S or without a post office S. So this is an example of Alzheimer disease that we can search in different databases. So there are words that you can see in capital letters. For example, OR. OR is a Boolean term. So we have 3 different Boolean terms: OR or, AND and, NOT not. So these Boolean terms help you to combine the different terms all together. So we need different synonyms. So all the synonyms would be either this one or that one would be present in that particular study. So we are using the term or. And if we need to combine this search term with any, that is the drug's name, then it would be combined through and, AND and. And if we want to exclude in non-English studies, then it would be combined through not, NOT not, non-English. So this is how the Boolean terms are used to develop a search strategy and reach to a final combined search string to be used in different databases to select the studies of your related to your research question. So the search sources, there are different type of search sources like www or internet, Google Scholar, Microsoft Academic, bibliographic databases, subject specific databases, like for education we use ERIC, Education Resource Information Center. So there are multiple of them that depends on the subject topic that you are referring to. Another sources include generic sources like ASSIA, which is Applied Social Sciences Indexed and Abstracts, that is focused on social sciences in general. Then we have hand searching of specialist journals or books. Nowadays most of the journals are available online, but still there are some journals or the archived volumes of some journals are still available in hard copy. So we need to do hard searching, go to library and search for those specific things. Then some experts can help us in doing our searches, so contact with expert is also very important. And then citation checking, the referencing checking of what you have included, then it might help you to get to more information. Then comes the selection process. Now you have conducted the searches and you have now got all the studies that were related, somehow related to your research question. Now you have to identify what those studies are which are only focusing on your research question. So they are meeting your inclusion criteria or they need to be excluded. So this step is being conducted by 3 people, involving at least 3 people, where 2 individual reviewers review all those studies. They assess those studies whether they are meeting the inclusion and exclusion criteria. And if the 2 reviewers are disagreeing on any point, then a third independent person can reach to a conclusion whether the studies particularly needs to be included or excluded. So this is why a team involvement is important in conducting the systematic reviews, because sometimes I might agree on a study that this should be included, but other person might say that this needs to be excluded because it's not meeting our criteria completely. Then an independent reviewer is needed so that they can come to a conclusion. So after the screening process, after screening the abstract, the second stage comes. So this is usually done in 2 stages, whereby titles and abstracts are checked first, and that is the first screening stage, to determine whether the study is likely to be relevant. So see the difference, where in the first screening stage we are determining its likability, like it is likely to be relevant, and then a full copy of the paper is required to complete the screening exercise, where we confirm that this should be included in the systematic review. So once all the studies have been selected for inclusion in systematic reviews, then reviewers need to systematically identify and record the information from the study that will be used to answer the review question. So we need to do some kind of codings to identify all those studies. Either it may be a project code, or you just need 1, 2, 3, or what kind of coding you want to, you can do it. The information includes the characteristics of studies, including details of participants and contexts, right? What the coding does, the coding describes the details of study to enable mapping of what research has been undertaken. See, for example, for one study there might be 5 secondary studies that has been published to that data. So you have to link that, you have to do a mapping of such studies. So coding help you do that. How the research was undertaken to allow assessment of quality and relevance of the study in addressing the review question. So the results of each study, so that these can be synthesized to answer the review question, is important in terms of doing this study. And then coding of the study can be done through softwares also. So EPI, Center's Bespoke Systematic Review software, can help you do that. So decision about which information to record will be maintained by the review team and based on the review questions and conceptual framework. Then comes the quality appraisal. Again, you have to see how what is the level of quality of the studies that has been included in your systematic literature review. That will help you to identify the appropriateness of the study design in the context of review question, the quality of execution of the study methods, and the study's relevance to the review question. So this is all done by different questionnaires. This is quality appraisal is based on some questionnaires that are pre-decided in your protocol, that will help you to assess the quality of your study that has been included, and many published scales are available for assessing this. Now we are going to synthesize the data. A synthesis is more important than a list of findings from the included study. Now you have reached to a stage where you have done the coding, you have now listed all the studies that met your inclusion criteria. Now you have to find out what are the results from these individual studies, right? To produce a better answer to review question, than is provided by the individual studies. So now you have extracted the data also. You have done everything from your included studies. You have extracted the data. Now, what you are going to do is data is vast. You have included around 200 studies, something like studies of your research question. Now, how to interpret that data? You can't interpret an individual studies data. You have to interpret, reach to a conclusion to one single point. That is generally done by applying some systematically defined meta-analysis or statistical analysis. So, systematic reviews often use statistical techniques to combine data from the examined individual research studies and use the pooled data to come to a new statistical conclusion. This is called meta-analysis, and it represents a specialized subset of systematic reviews. See, you have to understand that every systematic review must include meta-analysis. That is not the requirement, but every meta-analysis have the systematic review. Again, I am reinstating this fact that not all systematic reviews include meta-analysis, but all meta-analysis are found in systematic reviews. Simply put, a systematic review refers to the entire process of selecting, evaluating and synthesizing all the available evidence, while the term meta-analysis refers to the statistical approach to combine the data derived from systematic reviews. So, there is a difference between the two things, that meta-analysis can or cannot be part of systematic reviews, but when we are conducting a meta-analysis, then systematic review has to be done. So, conclusion produced by meta-analysis are statistically stronger than analysis of any single study. See, now you have included 200 studies and conducted a statistical analysis and reached to a conclusion that would be stronger than what you have derived from a single study. And due to increased number of subjects from one particular study, see, you might have thousands of patients that has been conducted in that has been analyzed in that particular single study, but if you have 200 studies, then it might reach, the number might reach to 15,000. So, compared to results of 1,000 patients to 15,000 patients, obviously the number of subjects is too much high, that now that increased number of subjects provides greater diversity among subjects or accumulated effects and results. Thus, meta-analysis, what the results are being produced by meta-analysis are much stronger, statistically stronger and proven. So, meta-analysis have become common in social and biomedical sciences both. So, this is an example of a graph or a figure that has been obtained after analyzing the data through proper statistical analysis, through applying the methodology of meta-analysis. There are a number of different matrices of effect size, selection of which is principally determined by the structure of outcome data. See, if we have a continuous data or a dichotomous means only two options are available, yes or no, or 0 or 1. For continuous data, it may be any number. So, that all depends that what statistical analysis you are going to apply or what kind of outcomes you have in your systematic literature review will guide you what kind of meta-analysis or what kind of statistical analysis you are going to conduct. So, there may be odds ratio, there may be hazard ratio, there may be just response data, there may be just percentage data. So, what kind of data you have, that will help you in developing your meta-analysis techniques. So, outcome data with a dichotomous structure can be transformed into odds ratio. So, where this is an example where we have listed out that when you have a dichotomous structure, then it can be transformed into odds ratio, absolute risk ratio or relative risk ratio, or maybe standardized mean differences only. So, applications of systematic reviews are, for example, politicians and policy makers are increasingly interested in evidence-based decision. See, sometimes policy makers are always pointed out that how can you make this policy, what is the evidence that you have to make this policy. So, policy makers can use systematic literature review as their evidence base to make any kind of decisions. They are always under pressure to look to research for solution to policy problems and to justify programs by reference to the knowledge base. So, for policymakers, systematic reviews may provide robust, reliable summaries to the most reliable evidence, a valuable backdrop of evidence on which decisions about policies can be drawn. So, I have listed few examples for you to help you to see what kind of systematic literature reviews are being conducted in various fields. So, review of research on effects of psychological stress upon performance. So, if I aim to do this kind of systematic literature review, then I can probably do a systematic review of the literature dealing with the effects of stress on performance, where we have behavioral therapy research with children, a critical review where we evaluated behavior therapy research with children published from 1965 to 69 as an experimental design and execution. Educational production functions for teacher technology mixes problems and possibilities, where a systematic review of past and present experiments with educational applications of computers and televisions is coupled with a study of social milieu in which public schools can be expected to operate in near future. Thank you.